Hey, everybody, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition for Tuesday, June 28th, 2016. We are live, and one thing I want to say really quick is I do want to thank John Eric O'Neill, who is in the control room right now. This is his last Tuesday here at MPTS, so it's been great working with him. You know, he does a great job with the I'm kind of a low maintenance host, so I don't think I stress him out too much, but
yeah, compared to the other folks.
yeah. There's certain people we won't name.
Yeah,
I think maybe stress John out a little bit. No, but John, we'll miss you very much, and you've got exciting things in your future, which is really cool, or at least from what you've told me. I'm not trying to give you a psychic reading. I'm not Norm, but sounds like you have exciting things in your future. So thank you very much for John Eric O'Neill for all your work and effort over the years. And Peter White has been in the control room, looking like he's having a great time learning everything. And speaking of Peter White, we have with us Joel Elber, Peter's partner on the morning show.
Yeah, how you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a while. How's things going?
It has been a little while. You're looking very, very tan, sir.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the sun.
You are bronze.
Yeah, that's this is my time of year to relish.
Yes,
as they say, without the hot dog.
I love the summer too, but I don't tan.
I
go directly to burn. I'm Irish, and I just I'm very pale, and
Right.
I'm not allowed at the beach because I'm extremely hairy.
Well,
So-
I mean, I'm very hairy too, but they let me on the beach.
Yeah, well, I should clarify. I'm just not allowed in the water.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the last time I was in Vegas, I was in a hairy contest, chest and back, and I won. I beat out like 30 other contestants.
Really?
Yeah, and he gave me like a beer with 6 beers in there.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I thought would be like. Here's a check for $5,000.
That would be great.
Yeah, I did a little dance around the pool and show my backside a little bit, and everybody was chanting moose, moose, moose,
Wow.
moose. Yeah, so it was good. It was quite a scene back there.
Is there video of this?
No.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, yeah. I don't think we had video, but yeah, I guess we did back then. It was only like 5 years ago, so I'm assuming that.
I think we had video 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was hey, as they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Right,
and
right.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
So you're, and I know you only have a few minutes, but you're running for state rep.
State rep, yeah. Be representing 19, and I live in Ward 12. And I don't have a primary in September, but I do have in the final in November.
Yeah.
So I'll be out there with my partner, Bob Backus. We teamed up. I saw him today. We talked some strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime in August, we'll be putting the signs up. We got some letters going out. So a lot of things will be happening. We're going to have a couple of house parties to raise some money.
Yeah.
So things are looking really, really good right now.
Now, is Mr. Hopwood also involved in your campaign? Or?
Yeah, he's my campaign manager and Bob Backus.
Okay.
And John is running for state treasurer. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
So right now he has his plate full,
Yeah.
doing my campaign and doing his campaign.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
I came close to running this time.
Yeah.
I came the closest I've come yet, but
I give it a shot. I ran for school board, which everybody knows I lost, and it was a narrow loss when I ran for Board of Aldermen a year ago. I lost by like 17 votes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
you came really close.
Yeah, I mean, I was up against a tough hitter, Bernier, which was a well-known guy, and he was in office before, and I gave him a good run for his money.
Yeah,
which everybody was surprised. So like my friend Bill Barry says, hey, if you work hard, it pays off at the end.
Yeah.
That's what he told me, and that's what I did, and so I lost by 18 votes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, but I don't know what I'm going to do next year. It's it's kind of early, so I'm just going to concentrate on being trying to win state rep.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes, and if I fail, and then I got the hat trick, 0 for 3.
And for those who didn't see Ward 13, what's up with the New York Yankees game?
Yeah, well, when John Hopwood has Mr. Baseball on, it's called the Baseball Show.
Yes.
And Mr. Baseball is a big Yankee guy. So John asked me if I had any Yankee shirts. I said, yeah. I wear it, and I wore the hat today. So this is why I'm wearing the getup.
Okay.
So he can. We have to.
Just heard I don't know if the viewers can hear Peter in the speaker. Peter's not a Yankees fan. Well, we are in in Red Sox country or whatever you call it. I'm not a sports guy, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it, but
so I almost got attacked walking down Elm Street to get to the studio. I saw like 5 ugly guys, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. So I said, then I walked a little bit more to the left, and they just passed me. So
right,
and then I just kept on walking. Maybe I walked a little quicker than I walked, but
they probably recognized you from the morning show.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. Well, we'll see. Hey, if they did, they did.
How's that going? Is that an adjustment, getting up early every day, 5 days a week to do that?
It was in the beginning, but now it's automatic now. And, I don't even use an alarm clock to get up. It's just, in my head, okay, it's 5, 10 past. Make the coffee, shower, shave, get to studio by 6:30. Peter does his thing, I do my thing, and before you know, it's 7 o'clock, and we're on the air.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of prep? Because it sounds effortless, and I mean that as a compliment.
Well, I do a lot of prep in the afternoon, and then and what I miss at night, then I hit the computer in the morning and get like updates. See what I missed, breaking news or sports or whatever.
Yeah.
So I do that, and Peter, he gets all the music ready, gets all the sound bites ready. So he's busy on the big board, and he does a great job. I mean, he mastered that in about an hour. So
wow, great.
Yeah, so so
and some days you have Paul with you too.
Some days, he was on today, and he might be back. It all depends on his schedule too.
Yeah.
So if he comes on, and we had big guests already. So after the holiday, hopefully we're going to line up some more guests as the months goes along. Hopefully have some more politicians on, talk about their election bid and what they stand for and everything else. So things are looking up.
You guys are doing fantastic, and I really mean this because a lot of morning radio really just isn't very good.
Well,
you guys are very, very funny together.
We are, and it's a whole new ball game. What Peter and I do compared to the other radio. I mean, we talk about Manchester, and we and in the other shows, it's all about politics. How much more politics can you talk 5 days a week of being redundant?
Right.
So we have Collins on our show.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice 2 hours. We have great music. Sports. I do a little bit news, the weather. We make everybody happy. Either going to school or going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? For 2 hours, it's pretty awesome of what we do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it without my sidekick, Peter White. He carries me every morning. I mean, sometimes I don't even want to get up. I want to call him and say, I don't feel like doing the show today, but I force myself because I know he has my back every day. And it's like I said, our show is. Somebody said that they haven't seen a show like us in 100 years of Manchester.
Right.
Of what we do.
Right.
So it's called WMNH, and it's 95.3. Hey, put us on in the morning. Guarantee you that you're gonna have a good laugh out there. Good music. We do. We do it all for 2 hours, and you know what. The 2 hours goes by real fast, Matt, and sometimes we wish that we had a third hour.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so that might be in the long run. So and every Friday we tell the voters we're on different locations. So we get out of the studio, and I think a couple of weeks ago we're at Stark Park with the piano.
Yeah.
And that was a good one. We're at Veterans Park one time, right across the street there. So we're all over the place. So come on down and say hi to the boys, and we'll get you on the air, and we'll you might even get a T-shirt.
You're also on the monitors there. It's like I'm surrounded by the moose.
Oh man, that picture's awful of me. Oh, come on.
That's quite the effect.
Yeah. So I mean, oh god, oh jeez.
Yeah, you know what?
These guys are killing me. I mean, you know what's going to happen? Your show's going to get canceled now.
So I have a theory. I think that Mr. White there is messing with you because he heard you refer to him as your sidekick.
Yeah. Well,
he may have taken that wrong.
Well, okay.
I know what you meant.
Okay,
I know you meant partner.
Yeah, host or co-host.
Yeah,
that's a better right.
Right.
But,
I know you didn't mean sidekick.
No, that's okay.
And deep down, he knows it too.
Yeah,
sure.
he
knows.
Yeah. He's the only one that knows my lingo. So
yes.
So basically, he gets what I say.
Yes,
so
absolutely. No, the show's great. You can also stream it through IPM Nation, and we do. I don't know if you know this, Joel, but every night at midnight, we on IPM Nation Live Station 2, we replay the show.
Yeah.
So you can hear it there, and of course you can always get the archive of it too. They're archived on the I can never say it, WMNH site. It is WMNH, right?
Yeah, WMNH 95.3.
Yes.
And they can catch our rerun every Saturday from 10 to 3.
Yep.
And Monday, right from the get-go, they're going to do a marathon of all the shows from week 1 to the present.
Oh, on July 4th?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
So that's going to be kind of cool. And they did something similar Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
That they did the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of, like I said, it's all new stuff. And yeah. And it's funny because, when you go somewhere, you put the radio on and say, hey, that's me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of strange to hear myself on radio. And I said, oh boy, did I really sound that bad? Or did I really sound, but I'm learning, every week I think I get a little bit better.
No, you guys are doing great. And the show's funny as hell.
It is.
Really is.
And
it's very, very funny.
Yeah, it's Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So that could be maybe in the fall, maybe we get that extra hour, but we'll see. But, we'll see,
it's a
in
big
the
commitment.
long run. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes in the long run.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So I got a card here if anybody want to zoom in, and this is what we look like. And
I think Peter knows how to do that now. I think he knows how to zoom in.
Zoom in over this camera or
if
whatever.
If he's still here.
There
we go.
There
you go.
Right,
all right.
Yeah,
look at
right
that.
over here. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So
who did that artwork?
Brendan.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, Brendan. Yeah, cool. And he did that big easel for us, and
I saw that coming in.
He does a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
because you guys, I know, what is it? Fridays usually go somewhere.
Yeah.
Broadcast on location, right? So you need a big easel to.
Yeah, we're not too sure. We're going to be Friday. It could be across the street at Baked. I talked to them today. I'm not too sure if they called the studio just to confirm that was okay.
Yeah.
If not, we have in the near future, and as the Fridays goes, we have some really, really great locations that we're thinking of even doing. So I'm not going to say when we're going to be there or or whatever it is. So just keep on listening, and you'll find us out there.
And for those who don't know, Baked is a bakery. It's not a head shop. Some people might think.
So, like I said, I don't want to give away our secrets. Where we're going to be every Friday. So tune into 95.3 WMNH and come on down and say hi to the boys, and maybe a little trivia. You can get a free T-shirt.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well, Joel, we'll cut you loose. I know you don't want to scoot too late because with what you're wearing, you probably want to get home before nightfall.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to take this shirt off. I'll just carry it. But the only problem is I'm wearing a Yankee T-shirt, so I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, see, that won't do you any good.
Yeah,
what if you take both of them off? Because if you're so hairy, it might just look like you're wearing a sweater.
But I got John Hopwood. He has a cane, so I guess John has my back.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, Joel.
Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Anytime. And the great Joel Elber. Remember to vote for him. He is running for office. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So we will, from there, we will continue on to, let's see, I have another programming note, actually, I want to mention. If you're watching this live on Tuesday, and we are live on Tuesdays now, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, because we get the shows up usually within the next day. But if you are watching live on Tuesday, later tonight, at 9 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2, Jen Coffey's show, Liberty Walk. Jen has she's got a great guest planned for tonight, and they're going to make a big joint announcement about something that they're working on together that's very exciting. And Jen is really, really excited to share this news. So you can listen to that. That'll be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation Live Station 2. And, of course, you can hear the radio edition of Unleashed 5 nights a week. Also on IPM Nation 2 at 11 p.m. Eastern. And last night on the show, and it is up and available on demand in podcast form on the site, I did address the whole Justin Timberlake controversy. And pretty much, that stuff tends to be a third rail issue when you discuss issues of race and how the PC police and the social justice warriors of the world have made it virtually impossible to even have an open and honest dialogue about any of this stuff. So I got into that. Brian Brody, host of All Natural Being, also talked about that on today's show. At the end of his show, he also addressed the Justin Timberlake controversy, and that is also up and available on demand on IPM Nation, so you can check that out. So we won't get into that here now because I already discussed it at length. I actually ended up spending the entire show on it last night. But there is much to discuss, so much so that it's one of those situations where I'm almost not sure where I want to start. But, of course, whatever I don't get to now, we'll get to later on the radio show. And by the way, if you are watching live, feel free to call in. If you are watching live, the phone number is on the screen, so you can call. There's also a number that you can text me at if you'd prefer to text. That is 617-917-4476. You can, I've got Twitter open. You can tweet me at Matt Connarton, and there's the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And, of course, at IPMNation.com/MCUTV. We also have a chat room that you can use. So there's all kinds of ways to communicate during the live show. Texas, of course, had to go all the way to the Supreme Court with their... well, they didn't want to go to the Supreme Court, but the big ruling this week, and I guess we'll address this. This is kind of the big political news. And if you're amazed, well, he's not talking about Trump for once. Well, Trump figures into this. Sort of. It's kind of weird. But the Supreme Court striking down Texas's abortion restrictions, calling them unconstitutional and whatnot. The Trump part, actually, let's get the Trump portion of this out of the way, because obviously this was a very big deal. And it's a big deal because obviously it deals with abortion rights, which is always a divisive issue and has been for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, abortion was a big deal. But what is strange about this is Trump has been silent on the issue. Now, this was a big ruling. You would think Trump, as the Republican nominee for president, would have something to say about this. But unless I've missed something, or unless something has happened between a couple hours ago when I was doing my show prep and coming on the air live, Trump hasn't said anything about this, which is very, very strange. And he continues to anger and frustrate Republicans, the Republican establishment, Republican pundits and strategists and everybody. This time he's found a new way to irritate them by actually not saying something. See, normally when he upsets these people, they're upset with him because he says something, and he says something stupid or outrageous or crazy sounding. And they're like, oh my God, Trump, we want to actually win this election in 2016. We want to actually keep the House. What are you doing? Right? I always say, he's not only done all kinds of damage to the Republican Party, in 2016, he's taken a hatchet to it, right? But this time, his silence is deafening. According to this, there's an article here from HuffPost, Donald Trump's silence on SCOTUS abortion ruling angers conservatives. Laura Bassett wrote this. Presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's past remarks about abortion have angered people on both sides of the debate. Despite assuring evangelicals last week that he would appoint anti-abortion judges. And by the way, anytime he addresses evangelicals or talks in front of evangelical Christians, it's hilarious watching him try to fake being this lifelong Christian. I saw a clip of one event. He's talking about he's talking about the art of the deal. He'll use any excuse he can to discuss his book, The Art of the Deal. And then he but I guess he must have been speaking down south or something. I'm not sure where this footage was from, because then he goes, but of course, it's not as great as the best book of all time. Of course, I'm talking about the Bible. The Bible, yes. He just comes across so fake and phony. And it's been amazing watching him not only try with just all the fake sincerity that only one as unself-aware as he could muster, but then watching Christian conservatives tie themselves into knots, convincing themselves and trying to convince everyone else that he's their guy. Oh, yeah, no, of course he's a good Christian conservative. Just ask him. Hey, he's a Presbyterian. He's great. But yeah, watching him try to embrace these people is funny. Anyway, so despite assuring them last week that he would appoint anti-abortion judges and that he cares deeply about the anti-abortion cause, which I don't believe. I don't believe he's pro-life. He didn't become pro-life, quote unquote, until he's decided to run for president. Donald Trump has so far been silent about the Supreme Court's major abortion rights ruling on Monday, and conservatives are not happy. Just minutes after the High Court struck down a pair of Texas abortion restrictions, presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton praised the ruling and used it to attack Trump, who said earlier this year that women who have abortions should face some form of punishment if the procedure ever becomes illegal. And that, again, was that infamous interview with Chris Matthews where Trump, who obviously had not thought any of it through, seemed to indicate that he was in favor of women who have abortions facing some sort of criminal penalty, which even the most ardent pro-life people don't say that. You know, there are some pro-lifers who, of course, they think abortionists, abortion doctors should be prosecuted for murder and whatnot. I've heard that said. I don't recall anyone other than Trump ever before saying that women who have abortions should face some sort of legal penalty. But he kind of sort of said that to Chris Matthews. I say kind of sort of because Trump seemed a bit confused in the moment when all that was happening, like he wasn't sure what to say. You know, abortion's a pretty hot issue. You would think he would have given that some forethought before sitting down with Chris Matthews. I guess maybe not. Let's see. Hillary tweeted out, "This fight isn't over. The next president has to protect women's health. Women won't be punished for exercising their basic rights," unquote. Everyone held their breath for Trump's counter jab. But instead, the presumptive Republican nominee stayed mum. Trump's silence on the ruling is odd, considering his months-long struggle to assure skeptical anti-abortion activists that he's on their side. Just last week, Trump accepted the endorsement of Troy Newman, the president of the extremist anti-abortion group Operation Rescue, who has said that the murder of abortion providers is justifiable. Isn't that interesting, by the way, that there's there are people like this guy from Operation Rescue and Randall Terry, it's another name that comes to mind, who talks like this, who will actually go so far as to say the murder of abortion providers is justifiable. And yet, I've never heard any of them say that the women who have abortions should be punished. Even people as extreme as this don't say what Trump said to Chris Matthews in that interview. It's all very strange. Conservative pundits are now skewering Trump for his silence on the ruling. Leon Wolf, the managing editor at RedState.com, wrote a scathing tweet mocking the real estate mogul. Leon Wolf tweeted out, "Hi, at Real Donald Trump. Question: If Ruth B. Ginsburg had insulted your hat, would you have issued a statement on the Texas abortion decision yet?" That got a lot of retweets. Red State's Joe Cunningham called Trump a coward. He wrote, quote, "Trump is unqualified to lead Republicans if he can't stand up for one of the most fundamental parts of the Republican Party platform," unquote. Fox News contributor Eric Erickson, who really does not like Trump, also slammed Trump in an op-ed, writing this, quote, "Yesterday, the Supreme Court issued a decision propping up the abortion industry in America and giving it special rights against regulation. And Donald Trump, supposed champion of the unborn, said nothing. Can the leader lead, or must he be led on this issue? if he must be led on an issue about which he is supposedly committed, I would submit he really is not that committed to the cause, unquote. Think you might be onto something there, Mr. Erickson. Some anti-abortion leaders are being a bit more careful about condemning Trump, knowing that he may be the GOP's only alternative to Clinton. Well, we'll see how that plays out. The strongest abortion rights champion the Democratic Party could ever nominate for president, Clark Forsyth, senior counsel for Americans United for Life, told HuffPost that Clinton's record is still, quote, in stark contrast to whatever Donald Trump does or doesn't say. Donald Trump and his campaign are learning the issue. I have no reaction to his reaction. It's a process, unquote. A Planned Parenthood spokesperson disagreed that Trump and campaign don't know what they're doing. Erica Sacken, political communications director for the family planning's provider advocacy arm, said it's no surprise Trump is staying out of the issue. She said, quote, Donald Trump knows most of the country disagrees with him on this issue. In fact, for decades, the majority of Americans have said they want women to be able to access abortion safely and legally. The more people learn about Trump's dangerous policies for women, the less people support him, unquote. Well, I mean, I don't know what Trump's policies are for women. Do you? Does anyone really? You know, he has, as with so many issues, not a clear policy or clear ideas. I don't know. Does he care? I think he's really pro-choice at heart. I've never even... What was Romney's explanation for when he flipped? Remember when Mitt Romney, who had been the elected as the pro-choice Republican governor of Massachusetts, and then he said something about he visited a lab and something about the way something was explained to him at the lab. He had this epiphany that, oh, yeah, actually, you're right, abortion is murder or something. What's Trump's story? Does anyone know? Because I'm pretty sure Trump used to be openly pro-choice. But these conservative Christians, they just, whatever Trump says, they're good with. Let's see. We should get into a little bit about what actually happened in terms of the Supreme Court's striking down of Texas's restrictive laws on abortion. This is from the Associated Press. Yesterday, the Supreme Court issued its strongest defense of abortion rights in a quarter century on Monday, striking down Texas's widely replicated rules that sharply reduce abortion clinics in the nation's second most populous state. By a 5-3 vote, the justices rejected the state's arguments that its 2013 law and follow-up regulations were needed to protect women's health. The rules required doctors who perform abortions to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals and forced clinics to meet hospital-like standards for outpatient surgery. The clinics that challenged the law argued that it was merely a veiled attempt to make it harder for women to get abortions by forcing the closure of more than half of the roughly 40 clinics that operated before the law took effect. And yes, of course, that is the end game. That's what they're trying to do. Justice Stephen Breyer's majority opinion for the court held that the regulations are medically unnecessary and unconstitutionally limit women's right to abortions. Let me stop there for a moment. I am pro-choice. At least I consider myself pro-choice. Though I have come to, in the last couple of years, I find myself perhaps somewhat self-consciously saying, instead of just saying flatly, I am pro-choice, I consider myself pro-choice because depending on who I'm speaking to, if I'm talking to a pro-choice liberal or a feminist or whomever, and I say, well, I'm pro-choice and that I support a woman's right to choose, and I don't believe that the government should be determinative in that, I do, however, support things like parental notification, which pro-choicers don't like. I would even go further. I would go for parental consent, with caveats, because sometimes weird things happen, and someone should have the right to go to a court and say, a minor should have, and usually this kind of legislation does have that in there, that the minor can go to a court and say, here's the situation with my family, etc. Okay, but I would support parental notification at the very least. But I would go further with it. And, you know, I support things like banning late-term abortion unless medically necessary and whatnot. So I think I'm pro-choice because I don't want to see Roe v. Wade overturned, and I want to protect a woman's right to choose for a variety of reasons. You know, regardless of how I may personally feel about abortion, I believe, you know, if you could wave a magic wand tomorrow and overturn Roe v. Wade, which really wouldn't outlaw abortion, there's a misconception about that. What it would do is it would send it back to the states. Of course, states have tried, like Texas has, to kind of seize the issue anyway and make their own determinations about that. But what Roe v. Wade really would do is send it back to the states, as I understand it. But some people would not consider me pro-choice just based on what I've said. For a lot of people, the abortion issue, whether they're pro-choice or pro-life, abortion is an all-or-nothing kind of thing. So a pro-lifer would not consider me pro-life because I support a woman's right to choose, but a pro-choicer might not necessarily consider me a fellow pro-choicer because I do support some restriction, and they don't like that. They want abortion on demand across the board always. Not all pro-choicers are like that, but many of them are. And I get why, by the way. I do understand. It's the slippery slope thing, the camel's nose under the tent. Well, if you give in on something like parental notification, then the next thing you know, the pro-lifers have taken another step further in outline abortion. Now, I support something like parental notification, so I don't agree with the argument against it by the pro-choicers, but I do understand the concern. Let me put it that way. The other thing about this where I have a little bit of, I tend to feel a little bit conflicted is, I'm kind of libertarian in this way. I'm very much a states' rights guy. Now, on the one hand, most libertarians, though not all, most libertarians I think are pro-choice. They believe part of liberty is a woman's right to choose, obviously. Pro-life libertarians, of whom I don't think there's probably many statistically, but I have talked to a couple, they believe that the unborn also has the right to liberty, and therefore you can't murder the unborn if you agree that it's murder. But where my own conflict comes in is I tend to be a supporter of state rights and state sovereignty. And by the way, just to clarify, when I say states' rights, I mean it in the sense of states having sovereignty to govern themselves with as little imposition as possible from the federal government. Okay, I don't mean states' rights as in, that phrase has kind of a dual meaning because, of course, during desegregation, states' rights also came to be code for segregation. People like George Wallace would talk about the importance of states' rights because they wanted to be able to tell the federal government that, no, the federal government doesn't have the right to tell us that we can't continue segregation. So, but I don't mean it like that. Obviously, I don't support segregation. But I do support states' rights to a point in terms of self-government and some state sovereignty and not having the federal government involved in everything, like education, for example. However, of course, the way I resolve that conflict within myself, because I'm pro-choice but I'm for states' rights, is ultimately I agree with this decision by the Supreme Court because, yes, I think states should have the right to make laws and govern themselves independent of the federal government, but obviously where the line ends with that is you can't make laws that take someone's rights away, someone's federally protected constitutional rights away. So the Supreme Court decided that the laws that the state of Texas had implemented, the two specific laws that they had implemented, were designed to limit the rights, limit the choices of a woman seeking an abortion, which is federally protected. Therefore, these laws are unconstitutional. And ultimately, I agree. As much as I do support some state sovereignty, I think the Supreme Court made the correct decision, ultimately. Now, they will tell you... Well, actually, here, let's back up a little bit. The clinics that challenged the law Okay, I already read that. Like I said, they said it was a veiled attempt to restrict abortion rights. Stephen Breyer's majority opinion for the court held that the regs are medically unnecessary and limit a woman's rights. And Breyer also wrote that, quote, and this is important, the surgical center requirement, like the admitting privileges requirement, provides few, if any, health benefits for women, poses a substantial obstacle to women seeking abortions, and constitutes an undue burden on their constitutional right to do so. So in other words, in my view, correctly, Breyer is saying, I call BS on, Texas Governor Greg Abbott and everybody saying, oh, this is to protect women's health. No, we know what you're really up to here. It's transparent and obvious, and we're not going to let you get away with it. That's essentially what Breyer was saying. 13 states have similar requirements enacted as part of a wave of abortion restrictions that states have imposed in recent years. Others include limits on when in a pregnancy abortions may be performed, which again, I see, because of how I feel about that, I'm okay with some of those kinds of restrictions, but and the use of drugs that induce abortions without surgical intervention. Well, that I have no problem with. If a woman's going to have an abortion and there's a way to do it that doesn't involve, and I don't even want to get into what goes on, then that's fine. RU 486. Obviously, a pretty controversial medication, if you will. Amy Hagstrom Miller, the owner of several Texas clinics among her 8 facilities in 5 states, predicted that the decision would put a stop to this trend of copycat legislation. Actually, she's more optimistic than I am about that. I don't think it will. They're not going to stop. They're not going to let this go. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said the law was, quote, an effort to improve minimum safety standards and ensure capable care for Texas women. It's exceedingly unfortunate that the court has taken the ability to protect women's health out of the hands of Texas citizens and their duly elected representatives, unquote. Again, we know what that's really about. Justices Anthony Kennedy, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan joined Breyer's majority. Ginsburg wrote a short opinion noting that the laws like Texas's, quote, that do little or nothing for health, but rather strew impediments to abortion, cannot survive judicial inspection, unquote, under the court's earlier abortion rights decisions. She pointed specifically to Roe v. Wade in 1973 and Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 92, of which Kennedy was one of the 3 authors. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas dissented, predictably. I mean, they are stalwart conservatives. Anthony Kennedy is, he was appointed by a Republican president, but he's not, they can't depend on him to make the conservative call as they, particularly on abortion. I mean, you don't always know which way he's going to go. Thomas wrote that the decision, quote, exemplifies the court's troubling tendency to bend the rules when any effort to limit abortion or to even speak in opposition to abortion is an issue, unquote. Thomas was quoting an earlier abortion dissent from Justice Scalia, who died in February. Scalia has not yet been replaced, so only 8 justices voted. Let's see. Kind of skipping down here because it gets into a little bit how other states are affected. Texas is among 10 states with similar admitting privileges requirements for doctors, according to the Center for Reproductive Rights. The requirement is in effect in most of Texas, Missouri, North Dakota, and Tennessee. It's on hold in Alabama, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. The hospital-like outpatient surgery standards are in place in Michigan, Missouri, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, and are blocked in Tennessee and Texas, according to the center. There's more to this if you want to read the whole article. I have another area where I feel a little bit conflicted in all of this. There is a part of me, again, while I do feel that the decision was correct, because I don't want to see a woman's right to choose infringed upon. And I don't believe any of this actually prevents abortion, by the way. They go to other states. Texas's bordering states have seen an uptick in abortions from out-of-staters. There is data to support that. There's a reason for that, obviously. I do have a concern, except in my case, it's not an insincere concern, but I do have a concern about women's safety going to these abortion clinics, and in terms of what kind of care and attention do they get after an abortion, not just physically, but psychologically, emotionally. A lot of women who have abortions, they end up regretting it, and they have a lot of baggage that they're carrying afterward. What kind of resources are available there for these women? Now, I tend to, again, the libertarian in me says, well, it's up to each individual woman to seek those things out, and you don't need the government telling the abortion clinic they have to present these things to you. These women should investigate what kind of resources there are for dealing with the issues after an abortion in terms of, that kind of care and whatnot. So again, I agree with the decision, but there is some, I do feel some conflict, some inner conflict on this. But the issue, again, is complicated to me. I mean, to a lot of people, it's very cut and dry. A lot of both pro-life and pro-choicers think it's cut and dry. Pro-choicers say a woman's right to choose is absolute. Pro-lifers say abortion is murder. Well, I'm sorry, but we don't live in a black and white binary world, and sometimes these things are complicated. Personally, I think abortion's a bad option, and I would not encourage women to have an abortion unless medically necessary. And if you don't feel prepared to have a child, maybe you could put the kid up for adoption, But as a man, I'm never going to be pregnant, so I'm not going to make that kind of judgment for anyone else. I can tell you how I feel about it, but I'm certainly not going to support the government in any way telling you how you should feel about it. And by the way, statistically, over the decades, and this is something pro-lifers don't like to talk about, but the rate of abortion in this country has actually been on a steady decline since Roe v. Wade. As education has improved in this area in terms of reproductive health, and as contraception, reliable contraception, has become more and more available to people, the rate of abortion has actually been on a decline without the government outlawing it, okay? Abortion has been on a decline. The rate of unwanted pregnancy has been steadily declining. The rate of pregnancy, specifically among teenagers, has also been on the decline. These are statistical facts that show some good news. Now, a lot of pro-lifers, you can't even convince them of any of this, even though there is statistical data to show these are facts. But a lot of pro-lifers are evangelical Christians, conservative Christians, and they tend not to. Some of them. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush here, especially I have a lot of people I consider good friends who I would put in that camp, as being conservative Christians. But you really can't tell them any good news on this issue. I know from personal experience, just conversations I've had, some both on and off the air with these people, you try to tell them, well, the rate of abortion has been on a steady decline. They don't want to hear it. It's like they cover their ears and they just don't even want to hear it. Partly because obviously, they want to present the argument that millions of babies are being murdered every day, and that's why this is so terrible. Not that there isn't some validity to that point of view necessarily, but again, I'm not going to make that judgment for anyone else. But here's the thing. I find that, and I've said this before, and I know it offends some people, but the show's called Unleashed for a reason. I find that conservative Christians are the most, they're not optimistic people, typically, in terms of their worldview. They tend to be extremely pessimistic, because anything that's good news anything that shows progress, anything that's positive going on in the world, they reject it because it conflicts with their narrative, because they believe that things are just supposed to keep getting worse and worse, and this awful, evil, terrible world is supposed to keep getting worse and worse until eventually it gets so bad God says, that's it, I'm pulling the plug, and then the second coming happens and Jesus comes back and there's revelations or whatever is supposed to go on. And that's the whole big thing. And so we're supposed to be constantly moving toward that. So everything is always getting worse. You know, and you try to give these people any kind of good news and they don't want to hear it. Did you know that the world is becoming less violent? This is a fact. If you look over the decades, I know it never seems like it. It seems like the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket. You got ISIS, and by the way, that must be a giant handbasket to fit an entire planet. But, you know, you've got terrorism, you've got this, you got that. There's always all this violence going on in the world. It's easy to feel like, oh, everything's just getting worse and worse. It's actually not true. The world is becoming gradually, slowly, but it is actually becoming safer, not more dangerous in terms of the amount of violent death through war and other means on Earth. That is a fact. It is. It's good news. But try telling a conservative Christian that. They don't want to hear it. No, it's all getting worse, and Armageddon's going to happen any day now, and you know, we're living in the end times. Look at how bad everything is. Look at all the war, all the terrorism, all the abortion, gay people being treated with the same respect and given the same rights as everybody else. It's all going to hell. Any day now, God's going to pull the plug because it's gotten so bad. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not naive. I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. Obviously, some things have gotten worse. Personally, I worry about the environment. I actually believe in climate change. I know Republicans think that it's some sort of massive conspiracy between the world's liberals and the world's scientists to destroy capitalism. But no, I think that there's probably a reason that every damn year the planet is hotter than it was the year before. I think climate change is real, and I'm concerned about it. You know, but that bit of bad news, you would think conservatives would be happy to hear that there's man-made climate change, because that would fit the narrative that we're destroying everything and we're making everything so bad that eventually God is going to have no choice but to pull the plug on it all. But they reject that, and they reject it because you have a lot of Republicans in Congress who get money from big oil and coal and all these people who don't want clean energy. So the narrative from them is there's no such thing as climate change and it's all BS and whatnot. And then and then Republicans go, yeah, that's right, it's all BS. So you know, it's predictable. Every winter we'll have a blizzard. Well, actually, we didn't really have any blizzards this past winter. But every time there's a blizzard, I'll inevitably hear some Republican going, there's a blizzard. See, there's no such thing as global warming. Tell that to Australia. I remember a couple of years ago, the continent of Australia was on fire. Literally. They had these uncontrollable fires all over the place. No rain to speak of. It was 120 degrees. Tell the Australians there's no such thing as climate change. They're burning up. They're in real trouble. I don't know how I got... Yes, I remember now how I got off on that tangent. Because there is progress on the issue of abortion without making it illegal. There is progress. There are fewer and fewer abortions happening, but you cannot tell a pro-lifer that. They will not listen to you. They will look you right in the face and say, well, I don't believe that. Where'd you get those numbers? Well, what did that come from, Snopes or something? Snopes is run by liberals, you know. It's the liberal media telling you that. Those numbers are completely made up. Okay. Let's see. Wow, we're already almost out of time. Sarah Palin. I do so love to make fun of Sarah Palin, so we'll finish with this tonight. Well, tonight for now, of course. I'll be back later with the radio edition on IPM Nation. But Sarah Palin, who I often like to refer to as the former half-governor of Alaska, because she couldn't be bothered to serve out a full term, and who I feel is, she reminds me of a Hooters waitress with learning disabilities. I say that, actually, I really shouldn't say that. That's mean. That is pretty crass of me. That's an ad hominem. I shouldn't do that. If there's any Hooters waitresses with learning disabilities watching, I do apologize for comparing you to Sarah Palin. That is wrong of me. So it's a low blow, and I'm sorry. But when she opens her mouth and sound comes out, it's usually baffling. And she's got to be just one of the dumbest people to ever emerge on the national stage. Even a lot of Republicans I know roll their eyes at the mention of Sarah Palin's name, and they blame her for McCain losing in 2008. Let's see. This was from Politico. It says here, in one of her most confusing speeches to date, Sarah Palin, well, that's saying something. Sarah Palin gave presumptive Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump some advice. When choosing a running mate, she said this weekend, let's see if we can follow this. Quote, I would tell him to find someone who understands who the boss will be, someone who is not running to, someone who he could serve with, who he wouldn't need a taste test, a food taste tester around him. You know what I mean? Unquote. I actually think I do know what she means. She means that Trump needs to pick someone he can trust who isn't going to poison him. That's what she means about the taste tester and whatnot. Someone who understands who the boss is and who isn't going to poison Donald Trump. I assume she means metaphorically, so that person can become president, him or herself. So I get what she's saying. The problem is, she's too stupid to say it with in a manner that anyone would think is even remotely articulate on any level. But at least I was able to decipher it. Okay, we're done. So again, before we wrap up, I want to say thank you to John Eric O'Neill in the control room for being so great to work with over the past couple of years here at MPTS, and we will miss him. I want to remind everybody, of course, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2, Jen Coffey's show Liberty Walk, a brand new live episode, and she's got a big announcement that it is really cool, and she's very excited to share that with all of you. So please tune in tonight. Thank you again to Joel Elber for joining me at the top of the show. You can listen to the morning show with Peter White and the Moose. Joel is, of course, the Moose. You can hear that every morning, well, weekday mornings, beginning at 7 a.m. If you're in Manchester, right here on 95.3. We do also stream the show online on IPM Nation on Live 3. And we replay the show on IPM Nation Live 2 weeknights at midnight. So you can stream it there as well. Great show if you haven't checked it out yet. And I meant that sincerely. I really I love the chemistry between them. And don't forget, of course, if you're watching live, I'll be back tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2 with the radio edition of Unleashed. And we'll get to everything that I didn't get to now, or at least some of what I didn't get to now. Can never get to all of it because there's always plenty to talk about. So I will leave you with that, and I will talk at you all a little bit later. Thanks, everybody. Am I still on? I think, oh, there we go.